O taşıdele şuayı taşıdele. Ta trin dire de tepti mixilla and javari machigi children's book the seed of compassion. Ninjigi ninjigi sape. Roa. Lessons from the life and teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Illustrations by Bao Lu. So the reason I'm reading this is because a good friend of mine in Ladakh is having this, taking a few students, and she mentioned this book, and the English version wasn't available. So I am recording this Canadian accent that I am born with and grew up with. And I'm reading this book in my Canadian English accent. So here we go. Why don't we start with the jacket cover? I don't know if you can see this. It says, His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. First it says, from self-confidence grows compassion, and from compassion, strength blooms. Quite lovely. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, one of the world's most prominent leaders, was once a child from an atypical farming family in Tibet. Under the big open sky, surrounded by tall mountains and clear streams, his mother was the first to show him what compassion looked like. In everyday moments from His Holiness's childhood, young readers begin to see, present tense, begin to see that important lessons are all around us and that they too can grow to understand them. With simple, powerful text and vibrant illustrations, the seed of compassion offers guidance and encouragement on how we all might bring more kindness to our world, and shows how, like a seed, with time and care, it might grow into something bigger than we could ever have imagined. So that's the blurb. We call it a blurb on the side of the jacket. This it's an advertisement for the it's an advertisement for the book, but it's also explaining a little bit. And the art is really nice. You see? Part the rimo the ninja but ninja but chidwa, the little plant. And it says in Jigenanla, the seed of compassion, lessons from the life and teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Illustrations by Bao Lu. Here, this letter by His Holiness, I think it's not unrelated. He's usually giving this kind of, what can we say, endorsement forward, but here he's giving an explanation of his own sort of motivation behind writing this book. So he writes, I have had the opportunity to travel to many countries during which I have met and spoken to many children. As I won't have the opportunity to personally meet all the children of the world, it brings me great joy to share this story with you, my young brothers and sisters. In this book, I recount memories of my childhood and share lessons I learned from my mother and others who have helped me cultivate the seed of compassion that we all possess and have, yua. I hope this story will help that seed flourish within each of you and will contribute to a more compassionate world with a sense of oneness of humanity. Mitari, November 25th, 2019. A time before coronavirus. Okay, so any party Nijawadwa Amdo. This is Amdo province in Tibet, a depiction with the Tibetan prayer flags and Bala wearing his hat and the horse. Wow. And it says here, I was born in Tuxter, in the Amdo province of northeastern Tibet. It was a place of tall mountains, clear streams, blue skies, and many animals, mastiffs, sheep, horses, yaks, scorpions, chickens, and cows. Our home was in the shadow of the Amichiri, the mountain that pierces the sky. The mountain that pierces the sky. Pierces means like, it can mean like sound, a very piercing sound, very strong sound that cuts through everything. But pierces also means like cutting through the sky, like something that can, the mountain goes right through the sky. Oh, the art is so nice. Mine was a family of farmers. My father would spend the day tending to and selling horses, and I would stay home with my mother and help with her daily work. And we would plant barley, buckwheat, and potatoes, but those were not the only seeds we planted. From the time I was very young, my mother planted in me the seed of compassion by the example she set. She raised me on a diet of love. It's very sweet. And there's a picture here of Jawar Rinpoche as a boy. And there's a little sapun, a little seed in the ground. And he's mentioning that she taught him to have a diet of love. So this is the picture. And it says, "It was often my job to collect the eggs from our hens. I took my duty very seriously." And the next picture here, a little scorpion. While my mother cooked, the aroma of kore, a delicious bread, wafting from our kitchen, I would play in the courtyard with scorpions for company. The two birds are there. Sometimes I would sit on the roof of our house. It was the perfect place to watch the mountains reach the sky. Reach toward the sky. It was the perfect place to watch the mountains reach toward the sky. I'd imagine what the older boys were doing as they accompanied their fathers herding. I couldn't wait to be big enough to do that. Herding, it's reverse lettering, right? But you can see herding here. Herding. Nijimodi. Jawarimachigi ama. Flamotundru, his birth name. So he was on the roof and he was watching the clouds. And then also he says here, my other favorite perch means like a place to watch things, right? My other favorite perch was atop my mother's shoulders. From there, I felt like one of the older boys. I was taller than my father, and getting around was so easy. When I wanted to go left, I would simply tug on my mother's left ear. Oops, that's the left ear. When I wanted to go right, I would give her a right ear to pull. I would give her right ear a pull. And if she didn't understand my instructions or chose to ignore them, I would kick my legs. It's a nice story. Okay. Di mitsan chobo chileso. One family looks like they're having less than others, maybe older and a little poor. And so this says here, although my mother could not teach me to read or write, I learned so much from her. I was often a naughty boy, but she always treated me with kindness. Sometimes I think she may have been a little too patient with me. I was a bit spoiled, but that was her nature. She was this way with everyone around her. One year, when there was a famine in our region and many families did not have enough to eat, my mother gave whatever food we had stored to our neighbors and those in need. So he says, one year when there was a famine in our region, famine means like the crops are not growing, you know? So a famine, a time of hunger, yeah? One year when there was a famine in our region and many families did not have enough to eat, my mother gave whatever food we had stored to our neighbors and those in need. And we can see here, it's a really nice depiction of the Great Mother. Really nice. In this way, she tended the seed, that most important lesson, by demonstrating how to practice compassion. I missed one word, sorry. In this way, she tended the seed of that most important lesson by demonstrating how to practice compassion. How to practice compassion. She showed me as a child that it was possible to treat all people with warm-heartedness and to help ease their suffering. Like a tall tree never forgets the seed it sprouted from, I've often returned to the seed of compassion my mother planted, and which I carried with me as a small child at home, as a young monk in training, and today as I spread the message of compassion around the world. Message of compassion. Okay. So here, this picture, you can see Amala is helping him to pour the water on this seed, which is turning into a plant. So I guess his compassion is growing. Right? And this is the picture here. I loved growing up under the big open sky in Taxte. But I always knew that my life would take me beyond my small village. When I was almost 3, some monks came from the capital, Lhasa, looking for the child who was the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of the Tibetan Buddhists. They had been searching all over the country for him, and the millions of people of Tibet had been waiting to hear that he had been found. No one in my family could have expected that I was that child, least of all me. But after passing a series of tests where I correctly identified the belongings of the previous Dalai Lama and held them with a great great sense of familiarity, our visitors were satisfied that they had found the boy they were looking for. Oh. Mhm. And so, at age 4, I made the journey to Lhasa in a caravan that snaked through the mountains. Snakes in a dus trouble. Snaked through the mountains, went this way and that way. Yeah? It took 3 months, and as news spread that the new Dalai Lama had been found, more and more people joined the procession. Procession means this kind of line of people walking together, one after the other. I rode in a beautiful palanquin. Palanquin senedirawa. This is a palanquin. I rode in a beautiful palanquin with my brother. We were rambunctious boys, and every time we roughhoused inside the cozy cabin, we would knock it off balance. We had to be separated for the rest of the journey. So you see the horses, and they're carrying this little house, but I think the brothers are roughhoused means like pushing each other and kind of playing. So they had to be separated for the rest of the journey to Lhasa. Kabalestila. Okay. In Lhasa, after I turned 6, my formal education began, and my days filled with studies. In the few hours I had for personal time, I loved to puzzle over how things worked. I could spend hours taking apart toys, clocks, and watches and putting them back together again, or exploring the mechanics of movie projectors and cars. Exploring the mechanics of movie projectors and cars. This occasionally got me in trouble. So he's puzzling means like looking with wonder, kind of how does this work? What's under the hood? The motor di lega di kante se drogiore. As I trained to be a monk, I studied many subjects, like Buddhist philosophy and history, logic, and reasoning, metaphysics, poetry, medicine, Tibetan, and Sanskrit languages. Right? One topic that I loved was compassion, because of the seed that had been planted by my mother. I believe that is what led me to free the people held in the prison next to the Potala Palace where I lived. I have spent my entire life studying this topic, and I know it is my duty to help make the world a more compassionate place. The remarkable thing is, this ability is within every one of us, and it is strongest, I believe, within children like you. Many Buddhist teachings compare those on the journey of life to sprouts. Sprouts means that little plant. Or the young shoots of a plant that must be tended until they grow strong and thrive. Here you can see this little plant in the window and then a big tree branch outside the window. Yeah? So again, many Buddhist teachings compare those who are on the journey of life to sprouts or to the young shoots of a plant that must be tended until they grow strong and thrive. Parents often describe their children as sprouts too, especially when they see how quickly they grow. But children are like sprouts, not just physically, but in how they contain potential that can be nourished. The seed of compassion is within every child. It is there from birth and is part of our nature. and it flourishes because of love. If you think about it, when it comes to the 5 basic senses, we humans are not all that impressive. The elephant has a long nose and can pick up faint scents from much greater distances than we can. And the hare, the hare can turn his tail, ears, the hare can turn his tall ears toward and backward. The hare can turn his tall ears forward and backward to pick up sounds that we would miss. So turning ears forward and backwards, right? We cannot do that, right? Our ears are stuck. The eagle has eyes that can spot the tiniest prey from far up in the sky. It's not the use of our senses that makes us special. But only humans have the ability, with discipline and effort, to train the mind. It is what makes us different from all other animals, and it is our superpower. It is where the seed of compassion thrives. But so often our world puts importance on material things and pushes us to be competitive with the people around us. The material world is based only in the 5 basic senses. Compassion is based in the mind, the part of us that is uniquely human. It is where you might grow strongest in how you can create something positive in the world. Because compassion is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. When you approach someone with true warm-heartedness, they can feel it. Doing so only brings more joy to you and them. There are many simple ways to bring more happiness to the world. But you already know that. What you must do now is protect and nurture this seed. When someone disagrees with you, rather than think they are mistaken, you must ask, why might they feel this way? When someone is scowling or upset or hurt, you could busy yourself with your own concerns, or you could ask, what might I do to help them? These questions may not come immediately, but just as you gradually learn to read or swim or play an instrument, you can build compassion day by day. It takes practice, and even when you slip and don't make the compassionate choice, tomorrow presents the opportunity for you to try again. 이제 네 보고 잠마디 아빠 닌가 내도와 내기도와 이제 건석이 솔발레서 솔바 닌나나 닌가나 솔발레서. Okay. I have many responsibilities in my life, but helping to make the world a more compassionate place is the most important one. We cannot change the past. We can only learn from it. Otherwise, it is beyond our control. But the future we can change. And as children, you already have the tools needed to build a happier world, a better world, a compassionate world. Last dire. Then they have a timeline of His Holiness. So many different events that happened. Right? He was born July 6th, 1935 in Takhtse, Amdo, Tibet. In 1939, he left Amdo for Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. On February 22nd, 1940, the enthronement ceremony officially recognizing him as the 14th Dalai Lama. Soon after, he begins his studies as a monk. He splits his time, splits means divides his time, between Norbalinka, the summer residence of the Dalai Lama, and Potala Palace, the winter residence of the Dalai Lama, and the seat of the Tibetan government. November 17th, 1950, at the age of 15, he assumes the additional role of the political leader of the Tibetan people. March 17th, 1959, escapes to India following the brutal suppression of the Tibetan national uprising in Lhasa by Chinese troops. December 10th, 1989, recognized and receives the Nobel Peace Prize, December 10th, and May 29, 2011, formally relinquish means like give up, his role on the political leader, as the political leader of Tibet. May 29th, 2011, formally relinquishes his role as the political leader of Tibet and transfers that authority to elected leaders. Okay. And the cover, I showed you this part, but on the back, it's a very nice message. What does it say? You see? The potential to build a more compassionate century and promote a greater sense of oneness among the whole of humanity lies within the children of the world. That's a very nice, short, sweet book. Very, very nice. So thank you. I hope that was fun. I enjoyed it. Okay, tashi dile shoyin, jule, tashi dile. Yeah, yeah.